Hey y'all, thanks for checking out the video. Dust collection upgrade on this one. I'm tired of struggling with it. Went out and spent a bunch of money, a lot more than I thought it would, to build a new dust collection system, complete with self-cleaning blast gates. Want to see how I did it? Stay tuned and I'll show you what I did. Alright, so this is the beginning of upgrading the shop's dust collection system. We've been using an old bagger and stuff like that, and it just doesn't have quite enough to keep up with my planer. It's a 20-inch, and if I'm running wide boards, it clogs. It just can't remove the dust very well. And I'm tired of limping along with it. So this is the start here. I'm going to create my own kind of a cyclone system. And that's what this part is here in the box. It's the cyclone part. And I'm getting another larger dust collector with a better impeller and stuff like that to mate with this. This is going to be kind of totally different than anything else you see anybody else do for a small shop setting. But, you know, I have enough large projects that I do that dealing with a bagger is just a pain in the butt. I end up losing hours in a day swapping bags and stuff because it just fills too fast. So hopefully what we can be able to do here is I can get it to where this part is going to be set up outside, and there'll be a collection bin outside that I can pick up with the forklift and be able to reduce how much time I spend messing with it to where when I'm doing a larger project it's like once a day instead of 3 to 5 times a day. There's an air conditioner mounted there right now. I don't need 2 air conditioners in here. I don't need any actually. But where you see that grate there, that's where I plan on putting the chute that goes out. And then up on the top there, that also hooks into the air conditioning unit outside. And that's where the exhaust for the impeller will go out. Now obviously I don't need anything anywhere near that big of a hole. More than likely what's going to happen, because that duct up there is already kind of the right size, I'll just close the ends of it off and leave the outside of it open, put some kind of a grate like that onto the outside so that, you know, I don't end up with birds nesting in there and wasps and anything, all the other good stuff. So that's kind of an easy modification there. Down here, that's going to be probably a bit more extensive. We'll see how it works out. I'm waiting on my the impeller and the other parts to show up later today. So that's where we'll pick up. Okay, so I thought I'd show y'all where I'm at now. Got my impeller. It's a pretty good size one. It's a 3 horsepower induction motor here that runs this impeller. It's got some pretty heavy aluminum blades in there. This is a Grizzly model dust collector. It's meant to be a double bagger right there, and there's some other frame parts that I got stashed right now, but I'm going to completely delete all of that. The way this is meant to run, this right here, this is my main inlet. This goes to my tools. Alright, let me show y'all what I come up with here. Digging around, I found these metal brackets that are real frickin' solid. So I just attached them up top there to that cross brace. That's pretty solid. That was holding up that air conditioner that I showed you earlier. So I know it's plenty strong enough to hold this thing up. Plus I have a positive contact where it's resting on a piece of heavy duty channel there on either side. And what I'm going to do next is I'll cut a piece of plywood. Cut me a piece of plywood now that goes from here against this purlin in the back. And that will keep this from wanting to shift back that way, and it'll brace this whole rack system. So then after that, I can cut a piece of plywood that goes from one to the next, and then I've got a way to mount the impeller to this. And this is one of those happy things. I don't know how well that's showing up. Without trying too hard, everything worked out to where it's pretty daggum level in here. So, I mean, I love it when stuff gets easy. So now I can take and mount that impeller onto the piece of plywood, and then I can figure out my duct work the rest of the way from there. Okay, here's where we're at with the dust collection today. Off camera, I built the basic structure. So there's my impeller. I got to put it today. My main goal is to get the exhaust part of that going. I was going to use a Cyclone, the one I got, this little Grizzly Growler right here. My dust collector is too powerful for it. It doesn't do its Cyclone thing the way I want it to. So that was a little bit of a disappointment, but that's okay. Anyway, I got a piece of duct that I had made right here that is going to mount to the flange on the impeller up there and go through that metal panel that you see above it. But there's my table saw line, and it comes up, and we got this 6-inch that comes all the way across to here, and then I got a drop here. I'm going to install a blast gate there. I'm kind of debating on whether to put a blast gate or just get a cap to put there, because this is the planer station. Planer will be here. And I need that to be movable because sometimes I need this area here for assembly, or when I'm spraying and stuff as a drying area. Anyways, this comes down 6-inch, stays 6 all the way to here to this elbow, and then it drops to a 4. I have a Y here that comes down and it goes all the way to the floor. And I'm going to cut somewhere about midway on this and install a Y and a blast gate. And essentially it's going to continue all the way to the floor like you see it, but I'm going to make that into a floor sweep. And then I'll have a blast gate and a single hose that comes out. There's 3 machines that are here, potentially a 4th in the future, but it'll service the shaper, the jointer, and the edge sander. All 3 of these machines from one drop. I never use all 3 at the same time, so I could set this up to where, you know, I can rotate around and do it as needed. Okay, the reason I'm doing this now is that because this duct protrudes all the way through, it's hard to measure, figure it out. So I took the panel off of here, installed this temporarily, and now I have a reference point to measure to. And I can take these dimensions put them to that panel that I was here, cut my hole, and then I should be able to fish it back through and mount this correctly. All right, that was relatively painless. Got that in there. It took me about a half an hour to get it mounted back on there and cut my hole and everything else. All right, and here it is on the outside. You see the framework there. That was for mounting the air conditioner that used to be on this wall. So I'm going to use that structure that's there to kind of build an enclosure around this to where there's it'll help keep the rain off of it and you know, direct the dust out. Well, keep the dust from getting spread out more accurately. I want it to be able to just fall. I'm going to be using this metal frame here, which is a support for the air conditioner, as the base of it. And this will be the bottom of the walls here, so it'll have a fair amount of distance that it can fall. So it should get it to where there's almost no energy left in it. And then down here in the bottom, I'm going to build a bin that hopefully will be a kind of a self-dumping hopper. It'll fit under here. I'll leave myself like 5 or 6 inches in here so that I have room when I come in with a forklift to pick it up and take it out. So that'll still give me 44 inches, so I can get at least 40-inch deep on the bin, which will hold a lot of sawdust. Okay, this is the beginning of making some blast gates. What I got here, little 10-inch by 10-inch square, and that's just so that it's something easy to handle. Find my center of it. And then because I know I've got a 4-inch PVC, that's exactly 4 inches on the inner diameter, what I'll do I'll mark 2 inches each side of my center in 2 directions. Then I can take this and I can center it up. And the centering is really just for convenience, simplifying math, all of that stuff. Mark it on the inside and the outside so I can always have something to refer back to get back to this point. So the next step is I'm going to put some silicone on here and some blocks to help hold it in place and to clamp it down and let this dry for a little bit. And then when that's done, I'll bring you back. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some 4-inch connectors, cut them in half to where I could get 2 pieces out of one. Try to get them right in the joint here. You can see the little lip right there. I'm going to attempt to split that in half so that there's some of that left on either side. That's about 1/4 inch wide, and saw blade takes 1/8, so I should have a 1/16 or so on either side if I split it good. And that's just to try to get a little bit more surface area, because in the end these are going to end up being just put together with silicone, and maybe I'll try to put some screws in. But at any rate, these measure 5 1/8 inches out on the outer diameter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some pieces that are 6 1/8 inches, 6 5/8 maybe. Yeah, I'll do 6 5/8. That way I'll have 3/4 of an inch on each side of that. And that'll leave me some surface area to put some fasteners and things as I build these blast gates. So that's what's next. Okay, so this is the beginning of my master template. You can see I took a scrap piece of 4-inch PVC and glued it down to here, and I put some blocks on it just to kind of help keep it stable. The silicone is about 99% dry. It's probably dry enough that it's got a hold of it for my purposes. I don't want to let it cure fully because I want to be able to kind of defeat that silicone reasonably easy, because that was just meant to be a temporary joint. So, see the hole that I got drilled here in the middle, so I could drop it down onto my router bit, and then I can just work it around until I get my hole. And then once I do that, I'll show you the next step. Boy, I can't wait till I have a dust collector again. And as you can see, that makes for a really nice, clean cut. So now I know I have a hole that is exactly the same size as the pipe. So that makes it, from here, makes it easier. You take all of this stuff off, and then I can build some, build this into a jig, to where I've got my 6 5/8 pieces here. You saw me cut, and I can put some stuff in here to hold it in place and get it nice and centered on the hole. That makes it to where now I have my 2 spaces of my blast gate. So that's the next step. Okay, and this is why I kind of took a little bit of time to get this hole centered. When I put this on here, I want to build a fence basically around this. So this right here, I got 3.5 inches there, so that means 1 3/4 inches. And then when I measure here, I've got 3.5 inches. So I could cut some 1 3/4 strips and put a frame around this, and that makes it to where I could just take these and just drop them in. And now I know that my hole is centered on my board, and then this is centered on my hole. And that makes everything easier from here, to where I can just go through and drop one in, route it out, pop it out, put the next one in, route it out, repeat, repeat, repeat. So it shouldn't take me too long to cut out 10 of these. Alright, so now I got them all cut. And this is measuring 1 3/8 inches from the outside edge to my opening. So what I want to do from here is I want to leave a good 1/4 inch or so. Since it's 1 3/8 inches, just to keep math easy, I'm going to go ahead and cut some 1-inch pieces to go from front to back on these edges here. And that'll get these to where they're held apart like that, and that'll leave room for my gate to go in there. So I can take these 10 pieces and turn them into 5. So that's the next step, is get these assembled. Alright, there we go. Got a place for my blast gate to go in, hole for my material to pass through, my wood chips, and these screws, you can see once I countersink them slightly, they go all the way through. So these are held together really well. But if I want to be anal, which I do today, I'll go ahead and come back from the other side in the center. And and now I won't have to worry about them. See, even doing that, I got a little more squeeze out, which is a good thing. All right, looking good. One down, 4 more to go. Okay, so what I've done now, I've got these completed parts, and I took and I decided I wanted 1 inch for the size of the handle that I'll put on here later. But for the moment, the main thing is this right here. I took the part and I slid it in. You can see I traced it out to where I know what I want my part to look like when it's complete. And I took my original template that I made and set it up, built new fences around it, so I could take this and slide it in. And you can see now I could do the exact same process that I did with the other ones, where I can drill a hole in the center, set it on the router table, route out the circle, and now I've got this with the appropriate hole in it that I can put into the blast gates that I made. Okay, so now where I'm at is I took my 4-inch PVC collars and I cut them in half. And if you look, I still got the lip on the inside of that. So hopefully what that'll do is that'll give me a little bit of extra surface area here, because all I've got to put in with this in with is the silicone. I'm debating on getting some short screws, maybe using some of these 1/2-inch screws and drive them in at an angle just to kind of hold them in place. But I'm scared to do that because you know, PVC cracks. Even if I drove a pre-drilled it, you know, I think I've taken more risk than is acceptable. But I'm pretty confident that just the silicone by itself, if I rough these up a little bit with a sander, to where they get a little bit more of a mechanical grab, and if I'm not cheap with it, to where I mound it up all the way around the outside and on the inside. If you look on the inside here, let me get this centered again. You can see there's a lip all the way around the edge, and moving it around so hopefully you can see it a little better. There's a lip all the way around the edge, which gives me somewhere to put more silicone towards the inside. And by doing that too, I kind of create a ramp to where any chips and whatnot will bounce off of that and continue down the airstream. So I'm going to do that and let these sit overnight to where they can dry, and then I can hopefully install them in the morning. What I've also done in the meantime is I took my parts that I made, my sliders, and I went ahead and put one edge on. But I don't want to deal with these being on here because it'll off center the weight. Right now I think I could take and build these out and put some weights on top of them to help that silicone give it a good grab. One of my main sayings when I'm doing something like this, when it comes to glue, don't be cheap with it. Glue's cheap. Fixing a failure is not. think each one of these cans of finish weigh around 10 pounds. I don't know. Doesn't say on the label. But anyway, it was good enough to smash this down. I'm trying pretty hard, and I'm not getting anything. So that silicone held this pretty good, which I knew it would. I mean, this is the same silicone when like a undermount sink or something like that needs to get put onto granite. This is what they use. And you know, it holds really, really well. You know, I got a good bead around the outside and a good bead across the inside right here. You know, that's why I left that little lip on there, so I could get a good bead of silicone on both sides, as well as that bead that I put on the underside where it makes contact with the plywood. So these are ready to install now. So let's go have some fun. Okay, here's the process of final assembly. These slide right on in. First time is always a little tough because there's a couple boogers that I couldn't get out. I couldn't reach them. But as you can see, and the advantage of this type of a blast gate is that there's nowhere for sawdust to accumulate. You can see in here on the inside, I think. Let me see. Let me zoom you in. You can see on the inside that this is all reasonably flush. And then whenever I push it through, it pushes all the way out. This is a pretty tight joint here. There's not a lot of room for sawdust to accumulate. So it won't, it's a self-cleaning setup. Take a little bit of paste wax. And they flow just so nicely. So easy peasy. Okay, so this is a finished product. I have a 6-inch line that comes from the impeller, goes up and across to the planer, and I continued that 6-inch line all the way to here, then I dropped it down to 4. This leg is, I'm going to leave it undone for now because some future equipment is going to go here, and my workbench is going to move to another location in the shop, and this is going to become another little island of machinery. My lathe, excuse me, my lathe, a resaw bandsaw, and my drum sander will all go here. Over here on this section, this is where I got my shaper, my edge sander, and my jointer are all here, and they're all going to be serviced off of this one hose right here that hooks into here and goes. And that hose is long enough that I can move it from each piece of equipment and from that location. And then whenever I have my router table, I will set it up here right in front of this drop, and I can use this smaller hose here and plug it into that location, and that'll service my router table. The way these are my dust ports. These work really well. They slide easily. Everything closes up like it should. And down here at the bottom, all I did was I cut a little 45 off and left about a quarter of the flat square to the floor. So where now I can sweep floor debris, especially once I start getting trash inside of this little island. I can sweep it out and sweep it into that floor sweep. Over here, this first drop is the table saw. Got my 245s, got a 90 here that angles back to the saw, and a short piece of flex hose. Now all of this stuff is, the machinery is isolated from the ductwork with flex hose, and so that way vibration doesn't get transferred into it and start shaking stuff apart. I don't know how well it's showing up, but you can see I got a stainless steel cable that's the main supports for the duct, and that gives it grounding because the other end of the cable is in contact with the metal structure of the building. So all of my ductwork is grounded and won't build up a static charge, so I don't have to worry about things going boom. And then last but not least, there's some rope that I got tied off to that location, and from there to the wall to stabilize the whole deal. So this is ready to rock and roll. Just did a little inaugural run. What was happening before with the old dust collector, especially on this planer, it couldn't quite keep up with the amount of chips that the planer could come out. So what would happen is, like in the corner here and over here, a little bit of dust would get stuck there, and it would slowly over time just fill in until it was finally clogged. And it would just throw chips out the front, and I'd have to stop. And then, now I've got a board that I've got to sand on like crazy because it's been crabbing the chips and pushing them back into the board and causing dents in the surface. A few times I've lost a board. I had to get rid of it because there was just no salvaging it. So I just did the test run, and it was completely clean of chips on the inside of that hood. So now I'm very happy with how this is operating. So I was going to build a blast gate for this location here, but I decided I'm just going to use a 6-inch cap to put on there, because when I'm not using the planer, this is the only thing that this station is for the planer. So I'll just take and put a cap on there and pull the hose off and store it somewhere when I'm not using the planer, and then just get it out when whenever the planer is in place. So much better. Next steps are outside. I got to build a shroud outside to help contain the wood chips when they come out, and a self-dumping hopper, which I'll build later. That's not a job for today, and probably will show up on the next video. All right, thanks for watching.